Well, let's see where the finger of the Illuminati hand points to today. Actually, boy, there's a lot of people predicting that the dollar is going to go to like an index of 200 maybe, or that the silver is going to go down to $5, and oil is going to go down to $20 a barrel. Maybe it'll be 50 cents a gallon at the pump too, right? Yeah, right. Sure, man. It's sort of, you know what? These are the type of people that when silver goes up, they're going to be jumping on a bandwagon saying it's going to go to $500 or $1,000 immediately. They'll flip in 2 seconds flat, man. So, you know, they're fair weather friends. But, you know, I'm going to tell you this. The euro is, well, it's not doing well. I mean, it's been historically, it's pretty damn bad. But it spiked 2 times in recent days, or in recent weeks. Basically, each time the Federal Reserve had their FOMC meeting. And you know why that is? Because people are reading that they're not going to raise the interest rates, which is like, that's a no-brainer. How the hell can they raise the interest rates? You know how much the debt service is to the government as the government budget as it is? If they even go up a slight amount, it'll eat up way too much of the government budget, and we're already running deficit spending to the max, and it's not going to continue that way forever. It's going to break the freaking government as it is. They can't raise interest rates, period. So, you know, that's one reason some people are actually, well, you see the uptick in the euro. It's not doing that well, and the dollar's still really strong. It's on a tear. The index is like 97, but it went down significantly 2 times when they had the FOMC meeting. And the last time they had a meeting, they removed the word patience from, you know, have some patience. We'll have interest rates pretty soon. They removed that. We'll bring up interest rates pretty soon. They removed that from the language. So, you know, they're trying to obscure everything with smoke. You know, what's really going on in the industrial economy. Because really what's going on in the industrial economy is quite obvious. The commodity prices and oil prices are telling you what's going on. And the consumers have picked up very much what the hell's going on because the expectations for future spending, I put this chart on the last video I did. I'm not going to keep displaying charts, but I'll tell you what they say. It was a very steep slope downward. It was almost like a cliff, but it was an extremely steep slope downward, whereby consumer expectations for future retail spendings was dropping off, you know, the horizon really fast. So that also goes along with future orders. I said this on the last video, but I'm going to say a couple more things here. There's actually cracks in the wall on the system here, man. This is actually the Berlin Wall coming down in November 1988. But pretty much that's what the deal is coming down right now. It's almost like there's cracks in the wall. But you got to remember, you know, the only thing that really saves our ass is hard work. You know, it's not like the elite are all going to fall in an abyss and that's going to save us because they're useless eaters. They don't do nothing for us. You know what I mean? We save us. That's really what it comes down to. But to the naysayers that are saying that, you know, silver's a bad investment, I'm going to say this. The dollar is kind of like the cigarette right here, man. It's kind of burning. It's got a limit. Now, I don't think it's going to go to zero or nothing like that because you always have to have a medium of exchange in the United States. But it's going to lose a hell of a lot of its clout, and it's going to stay permanent. It's going to be an important currency, but it's not going to be the world reserve currency or as super strong the way it is today, the way the picture is today. You know, it's like this cigarette burning down. It's losing some of its clout. And, you know, to tell you the truth, you know, the people that are predicting silver's going down to $5 an ounce, this is a shirt that should be for them. You don't know shit. Really. You don't. You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing. Nothing. You don't know anything. You know, it's hard to predict how far and how down, but, you know, it's easy to say it's going down to like a third of what it is to now, which is ludicrous. It's like saying, you know, it already went down to a third of what it is, you know, what it was before. Now it's going back up again, you know. But it already went down to a third of what it was from the peak. From the peak, that was a spike. That was a bubble, you know. So it's about half the price of 30, or maybe a little more than half the price of 30 right now. But, you know, for them to just automatically predict something that low, it's just as bad as the people that, when it goes up, they're going to be predicting that it's going to go to, you know, $300,000, $500,000, thousands of dollars an ounce. Actually, I think when it goes up, it's going to go through 50 when it really, really goes up later, when there's a lot of turmoil in the Middle East, because this oil supply in the Middle East can be shut off any time. And, you know, it actually is going to protect the dollar in that way because, you know, when we have low oil prices, A lot of people don't realize this. That actually creates less demand for dollars. Less demand for dollars. When we have high oil prices and it costs a lot more dollars per barrel of oil and people are using the same or about the same amount of oil, it creates a much higher demand for dollars because the oil is purchased in dollars. But you know what? What's been going on in the last several months since the decline of the oil prices, the U.S. oil rig count, literally, I could show the chart. I'm not going to show it. It's like, some people love charts. It's a cliff. It's like, it's a steady rise from 2009, and then it peaked out in 2014, and now it fell off a cliff. There's actually people, major, I don't know, what was it, Quicksilver or somebody else, or I forgot what the hell the company's name. Another big one that is in the shale oil industry's filed for bankruptcy. But the thing is, high oil prices is actually going to protect the dollar from going to like oblivion. See, when high oil prices hit us because the production's not there, all they got to do is knock out the one kingpin out of the market, Saudi Arabia. They're already surrounded by ISIS, the Islamic State of Iran and Syria, whatever, Syria and Iran. And also Yemen on their southern border, which is taken over by the extremists from Iran. Obama's being wishy-washy with, Iran. It's probably all on purpose because they want a major conflict because this oil is going to come off the market. And the big guys are going to be buying up the shale oil industry for pennies on a dollar. And then when oil gets way high, all you got to do is knock that kingpin down, Saudi. And guess what? Oil prices go crazy. Now, what I say what they'll do is they're going to super spike. They're not going to stay way the hell up there. And actually it's going to create a lot of turmoil in its nation, because there's going to be a lot of, we haven't actually seen a depression here. It's like, say we had a severe recession in 2008 and we haven't really had a recovery. There's so many government programs out there that nobody's actually hurt yet. Back in the 30s, millions of people actually starved in the United States, and it was actually a lot worse than even Russia. Okay? It was that bad. And people back then knew more about growing food. And people back then, more of them were farmers, less of them lived in the cities and everything else. A lot of people back then knew a lot more about survival than they do today. Today, if the underlying government if inflation basically makes those government grand old checks worth a hell of a lot less, guess what's going to happen? People are going to freaking really suffer. They haven't suffered yet in this country. They're still playing video games. And when that happens, when they really suffer, there's going to be a lot of crime. That's why do you need a handgun that shoots shotgun shells? Because wrong house, motherfucker. You know what I mean? So I got to say that to all those anti-gun people out there and stuff like that. But in the meantime, everybody's being diverted. Their attention's being diverted to Hollywood fashion. What's the latest, greatest on, coming out of whatever, And, that's what they really do. They divert your attention. They have you live in another world that's not reality, so you don't realize what your world is about, what's really going on. A lot of people don't want to see what's going on, so it's almost like a drug. Entertainment's like a drug. It's something like that. But, the reality situation is that when we look at these charts and stuff like that, like we look at the U.S. dollar, went down $1.20. Now, the U.S. dollar is still incredibly strong. It's almost at an index of of 98. It was up to about 100 before. But those FOMC meetings are why the dollar takes a hit at the time and the euro goes up. When a dollar takes a hit, the euro goes up, and usually commodities go up. And you see oil went up, right? Even though it's not high. And you see silver and gold and all that type of stuff went up, right? That's usually what happens. There's almost like an inverse relationship between the dollar strength and oil and the commodities. Almost. It's not perfect one-to-one every day on a daily basis. Sometimes they all go up together, but generally speaking, it's almost like that. So, what I think is coming up, though, when people ironcladly have it proven to themselves that the Federal Reserve is not going to raise interest rates, period, and they're also going to bark on more QE because the underpinnings of the stock market are not strong because of the PE ratios, the price-earnings ratios, and when the markets start coming down and they realize they're going to have to use more stimulus the dollar's going to take a hit and the commodities are going to go up. That's actually the change in the weather. And speaking of the change in the weather, I've been talking about this extensively. You know, I know winter's over now. Maybe we got a pretty cold spring in some areas, mainly in the Northeast. I know in the West, in California, it's super hot and dry. In Alaska, it's freaking, you know, it's been unusually, unseasonably warm. And actually, if you look back at the old global mini ice ages, those two areas get warmer, but most everywhere else in the world get colder. And what I'm saying is that's going to affect your agriculture. Actually, Jim Rogers is going to be correct about this deal about agriculture and it being the number one industry in the future. The winds of change are coming, man. And, you know, what agriculture even requires, it's an energy intensive in business. It requires fuel, more demand on oil. You know, that's the only reason actually the population got so big. Because of crude oil, actually coal, and it was crude oil and other types of energy came about. And that allowed that people to not be tilling the land so much and, you know, go on to the next thing. But pretty much what happens is all commodities in very general move up together. And it also, that's another indication of the debasement of the currency. And you're going to see that debasement of the currency. The death of the dollar is not certain. It's certain someday, but let me put it to you this way. You know, people are doom and gloomers. I just have to tell you this. Death is certain, okay? If you want to worry every freaking 2 seconds, death is certain anyway, okay? Even if everything's rosy, death is certain, okay? I mean, I'm not a doom and gloomer. I'm just telling you that, you know, I'm just pointing out the reality of the situation. You know, they're telling you one thing, and actually, you know, as the oil prices have dropped and everything like that, you know, the talking heads in the freaking major media economic channels are trying to look for the consumer spending increases. And, like, it goes totally against what I showed on another chart. I didn't show it on this video, but it was actually off the Federal Reserve. You say, oh, it's the Federal Reserve. You know, every chart on the Federal Reserve is not wrong. It's just that they're not emphasized by the major media. But it shows you that future expectations for spending by consumers is way down. Also, new orders is way down. Retails, if you think retail spending was bad last Christmas, Christmas before, and the Christmas before, and it's been getting worse and worse every year, the expectations for the future is even worse. Even with these low oil prices, they're not going to spend until they're convinced the oil prices are going to stay low, and I don't think they're going to stay low because it only takes one major event in Saudi with some oil refineries to get blown up to drive the price up like $10 a shot at one time. I don't know when that's going to occur, but it could occur at any time. And actually, I'm thinking about the strategy that Obama's doing. He's almost allowing ISIS. It's not him. He's controlled all the way. It's like the policy is ISIS has been allowed to get strong. The deal with Iran is not going to be where we hammer Iran. We're going to let them get nuclear weapons. They want a big conflict. Conflict produces change, the Hegelian model, you know. And I don't know if you're one of these, if you're a multi-wave George Lakowski multi-wave oscillator user, maybe death isn't certain. So that's another thing. So keep a positive attitude. But for you doom and gloomers, death is certain. So whatever happens, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? I'm not pushing doom and gloom here. I'm just telling you a reality situation. Maybe I put it out in an entertaining way somewhat. Not somewhat, semi-entertaining. But the thing is, it's like I'm not trying to, you know, I don't work for a bullion dealer. I don't have anything with those guys. I don't like, you know, actually, to tell you the truth, my plans are I'm going to take this greenback stuff and probably get land with a lot of my silver, not all my silver, when it goes way up. And how high is high? I don't know. Probably, you know, I think when it gets through 50, it's going to get very dangerous to be holding it. And I know everybody in the world is going to be telling it's going to go to 100 something. It might. That's why I won't sell all of it. But, you know, to me, if it gets to 60, definitely a good part of it's going bye-bye, including the physical. And I'm not going to be holding this paper stuff. I'm going to be buying land. Okay? Is land bad? No. It's always been a productive asset. It's always been something that's worth something for good reason. You know, I'm not stupid about that. I mean, I already own my own land and stuff. I don't have any mortgages or anything like that, but I haven't had any mortgages for, like, I haven't had any loans or anything like that for, I don't know, 20 years almost. So, but I'm telling you that, it's like, well, that's, how I did that? Being cheap. That's how I do that, because anybody even has a lot of money, they can get upside down real easy. I found that out. So I'm just going to tell you people that, you're knocking silver left and right and you're saying everybody's a pumper and stuff. Hey, you don't know shit, okay? You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing. It's a good investment. Its time is going to come. And when its time comes, I think a lot of people are going to be afraid to sell, But, the big indication right now is that the euro is, it kind of spikes up really hard every time the FOMC kind of hints that interest rates aren't coming up right away. Interest rates hikes aren't coming up right away. So, I mean, when people figure out, and I know they're going to figure out for sure, they're not coming up ever. And when these markets do come down, like the Berlin Wall coming down, cracks in the freaking facade of the, the PE ratios is telling us the dam is ready to break on those damn on the general equities. When that comes down, they're going to have extreme QE. And then what's going to happen with the dollar? It's going to go down, the commodities are going to go up. You probably see an inverse relationship also between the dollar and the euro, So they're trying to blow smoke and, obscure the situation right now. And, I'm telling you what the situation really is. Although it's taking longer than I expected. Because, I'm in a hurry too. I'm impatient. I'm like, when's this damn silver going to go up so I can unload it and buy something else cheap and low and get that and blah, 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 It's like, but that's the way silver is, man. Actually, you always find somebody who predicts it right, but nobody predicts it right long term. I'm only telling you the basic principles of what's going on, not just about silver, but actually what's going on right now. The euro keeps spiking every time the Fed has a meeting. Why? Because they know it's hinting that interest rates are not sure. Interest rate hikes aren't sure. And I know they're never going to come about. They're not going to come about. More than likely, like I said it again, the PE ratios tell us that the markets are too high, and the finger of the Illuminati hand is pointing in the direction that the dollar's going to go down. It's not going to go to oblivion, like people are going to be saying it's going to go to oblivion when it starts going down. It's going to be the medium of exchange of a currency of our economy, a medium of exchange that we use in the United States of America. It's always going to be an important currency for a foreseeable future. Maybe not 100 years from now, but at least 5-10 years from now. And even with all the debt, because everybody else has a lot of debt, it's going to be the medium of exchange. But the thing is, it's going to lose its status as the world reserve currency. There's going to be one big final super spike in oil left. And I think that's going to be about when it happens with Saudi is freaking whacked. And, I think Saudi's on a chopping block by the Illuminati in this country. They're going to pull the rug out from underneath them. And that is why you're seeing all this stuff. You're hearing all this stuff, even in alternative media, that is supported by the CIA or whatever. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it seems like there's so many screw-up policies going in favor of ISIS or Iran that you could almost say to yourself, they're not that stupid. They're creating a conflict. And guess who the target is? Saudi. And guess what happens then? All that oil comes off the market. Guess what oil becomes worth a lot more. The tar sands and the shale oil industry in the United States and Australia. It's almost like Goldfinger. Remember the Goldfinger movie? Hey, Fort Knox gets blown up and it's all radioactive. The coal is all radioactive. My Goldfinger gold is worth that much more. That's exactly what they're doing in the Middle East. That's exactly what they're doing. It's a simple concept, isn't it? Actually, when I put it that way, as far as the movie goes, the Illuminati got a game plan. That's their definite game plan. I don't know when it's going to happen. I kept thinking it was going to happen last year, the year before, for crying out loud. They're taking a long time to do this shit, but I guess when it happens, it's going to happen that much more severely. As a matter of fact, the bull run in this market is in the equities the second longest it ever happened ever in this country. Ever. Second longest bull run ever. The longest one was in 1920s. We might have a 1920s and early 30s style crash. That bad. 50% loss. I know people have been saying it before, and it keeps going up and down, but you notice it ain't really going nowhere. It ain't really going nowhere. And I don't see how these companies are holding up their profits with consumer spending being this low. Even consumer spending being this low in the face of low oil prices. So, I'm not pointing out doom and gloom. I'm pointing out facts. So, if you are prepared with your silver and your food, you should be doing well.